Okay, I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakat, Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who teacheth the Bible in 100% truth. And shalom to the hopeful elect of the 12 tribes of Israel, especially the 144,000, who consist of the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans in the land of the Americas, as well as the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners living amongst the other nations. Shalom to you. Yeah, I've just again, looking at prophecy. It's been a hectic week. Donald Trump. I mean, even last night, I've been at work all night, and I was listening to videos, so on and so forth, watching different things. I get to do that when I'm at work. Can put the earpiece in and just listen to things, and then, at one point, I was going to make a video. I had this. I haven't got it now. A video about Scott Ritter. He came up with a video about 7-8 hours ago. But then since then, there's more news coming out. It's just constant. There's constantly different bits of news coming out. So the latest thing here, this is 3 hours ago. Breaking news. Reports Iran and US receive plans to end war in Iran. So that, there's this constant. I think last night what was happening, Trump tweeted. He was. What did he say? Something about these effing bastards open up the strait. Blah blah blah. He just this crazy tweet you've probably seen. And it, like I've been saying, on the outside it looks like very irrational behavior. If you get too carried away with the mainstream media, you're gonna fall down the ditch, because the mainstream media are not set up to give you the truth. Okay, they have information, so you can definitely use it for picking information, which is what we all do. That's how we know what's going on. You wouldn't know there was an issue with Iran if it weren't for the mainstream media. But you obviously have to be wise, knowing the information that you know as outside of that, to be able to navigate your way through mainstream media to be able to pick what you need. So in terms of prophecy, we're heading towards the Third World War. We're heading towards the introduction of the Mark of the Beast. Two major prophecies that are going to take place, and then you have the simultaneous destruction of America. It's known as Babylon the Great in the scriptures. Israel, the land of Israel, and you're also going to have the deliverance of the elect, of the Most High's chosen elect, who will be delivered up into a so-called UFO, what the scriptures would call a cloud or a chariot in the sky, and so that's the relief point, where you have the destruction of this wicked empire, you have the deliverance of the elect, and then from then on you'd have a new kingdom established, essentially. Once things start getting put back in order on the planet Earth after World War III. But leading up to that, we got this World War III and we got this Mark of the Beast, and these are the two things that are going to bring major woe, major destruction to the planet Earth. Not just in terms of war, but you've got this situation with the Mark of the Beast, which is pretty much a financial situation, which is what I'm warning a lot of people about now. You get people, they say, well, they'll talk, people are doing it all the time. You go to work and they're talking about the war. I mean, even on the way out, some random guys came up with some story about how he's someone at work, he came out with a story about how he's had a ticket for Saudi Arabia. He had it booked to like 4 weeks ago. He couldn't go because obviously the flight got cancelled. He's still waiting for his money back, and now he wants to book a holiday in the summer. He doesn't know what to do, and I'm telling him, mate, you're worried about your holiday because of your war. That's the least of your problems, because they're going to bring an economic shift on this planet Earth. We've got the Mark of the Beast, the digital. You start off with a digital currency, a digital system of monetary exchange, a system which will not be able to incorporate cash or coins, because it will be a digital based system. And then at some point, the fulfillment of the prophecy in Revelation 13, people will be told that in order to buy and sell, you're going to have to take this particular device under the skin, and that device will allow you to access that digital financial system. So, you've got this war going on with Iran, for example. Everyone's pretty excited. Everybody's saying World War III. And then on top of it, you've got these crazy tweets coming out left, right, and center from Donald Trump. And everybody's getting their heads in a spin. I'm talking of the world. Everybody's got these different points of view. But, like I keep trying to say, when you boil it down, there is a very systematic agenda that is taking place behind the scenes. And to understand that agenda, you have to understand the information that we've been teaching about the elites, so-called conspiracy theorists. That's what they'd call you for speaking of elites and secret hidden people who secretly control governments, so on and so forth. But as time goes on, the world is finding out that these conspiracy theorists are actually speaking conspiracy facts. So you got this situation, like I say, I spoke of it before. Donald Trump, he's not really the man in control. This is Psalm 64. I'll start at verse 2. It says, "Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked." It says, "From the insurrection of the workers of iniquity." It says, "Who whet their tongues," as in sharpen, wet as in sharpen. So they sharpen their tongues like a sword. It says, "And bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words." It says, "That they may shoot in secret at the perfect." It says, "Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not." It says, "They encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares privily," laying traps secretly. It says, "They say, who shall see them? They search out iniquities. They accomplish a diligent search." It says, "Both the inward thought of every one of them." It says, "And the heart is deep." It says, "But the Most High shall shoot them with an arrow. Suddenly shall they be wounded. It says, so they shall make their own tongue fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away." It says, "And all men shall fear." It says, "And shall declare the work of the Most High." It says, "For they shall wisely consider of his doing." It says, "The righteous shall be glad in Yahweh." It says, "And shall trust in him, and all the upright in heart shall glory." So this is speaking of that secret society, the secret council of the wicked, who sharpen their tongues, bend their bows, shoot their arrows. It says here, even bitter words, and that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. They encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying traps secretly. It says, "They say, who shall see them?" And so this is the same people, when you read of the earth being given into the hand of the wicked, this is that wicked group of people. Yes, you have Edomites, but then you have a pyramid or a power structure of Edomites, and at the very top is you've got these banking elites, and even though you have many nations around the earth, these elites are able to keep control of the earth through the monetary system, through manipulation of various governments around the world, i.e. America and Israel. Mainly America, which is obviously the scriptures talk about America being a golden cup that the Most High used to make the earth drunken, and it's through her philosophies and so on and so forth. So, when you're looking at Donald Trump, for example, I've said it before, you're looking at him and he's 1 minute he's sending out these crazy tweets, and then the next day, from that last night, it's almost like he knew what the news was going to be. He knew what today's news would be. Breaking news reports: Iran and US receive plans to end the war in Iran. But last night he did the total opposite by sending out a crazy tweet how he's gonna, "You effing bastards, do this, do that, or we're gonna send in bombs." He's playing the game. They're throwing you from left to right. It's like a Punch and Judy show. If you ever heard of Punch and Judy, The puppet show, oh yes he did, oh no he didn't, oh yes he did, and oh no he didn't. Um, this this Iran and US received plan to end the war. Basically, the long and short of it is Pakistan have come up with some sort of peace plan. They said, we can reopen the strait, we can do X, Y, and Z, and then meanwhile, America and Iran can have 4 years to sort out, to negotiate their sanctions and so on and so forth. So that's all it is. As if, like, Pakistan, as if nobody else has thought of that. Oh, we never thought of that. They've made a proposal where both sides agree and stick by it, and that way we can reopen the strait. Now, if America really wanted to reopen the strait, they wouldn't have started this thing in the first place. So that's really nonsense news. But what they're doing with it this morning, they're going to run with it, and they're going to tell you that there's a peace deal on the table. It's going to affect the stock exchange. But then maybe tonight or tomorrow night, Donald Trump's going to come out with another crazy tweet to throw things back in a completely different direction. And it's all just a game. And like I say, this war was, they tell the public, oh, we went there for 2 weeks, we're going to go clean it up, blah, 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 we'll be back. Then they go there, they say, it's been dragged out into a long war, there's nothing we can do. Oh, now we have to deal with it. Everybody's going, oh, well, this is stupid planning. No, but they've planned to get themselves into a long war, drawn out war in the Middle East. They wanted to do that. They just couldn't tell you that on the face of it. And I've been trying to explain that they're very strategic in what they're doing. They know they want to bring this economy to its knees. They know they want to introduce a new system, a digital system. They usually use world wars to reset these things. That's what they're in the process of doing. It's not Donald Trump necessarily, like I said before, he doesn't have the IQ. It's his handlers. You've seen these he's got these small hat handlers. He's giving these speeches. He's basically sucking them off in the speech, talking about how great they are because they contributed to his campaign. And they're telling him, you push this war, so on and so forth. They're pretty much speaking on behalf of the elites. But what I came across just now is this elder here from GMS Boston. So he did this video 5 hours ago. He doesn't actually give his name. I have seen him before, but he doesn't actually give his name in the video. And he's entitled "This Possible Scenario: How Things Could Temporarily Unfold." And he's then speaking of, America or Donald Trump, working on a businessman type mentality, which is how he acts. He comes in, oh, don't worry, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll throw money at it, we'll fix the problem, we'll fix that problem. He's just that. He's kind of like a salesman bullshitting his way through a scenario, but he called himself a businessman, and he is kind of like that. And what this elder's doing is he's explaining how obviously with that type of thinking, he could be causing the problem pretty much in the Strait of Hormuz to renegotiate deals with you got Venezuela, and I think he mentioned Canada. And then if America can then hold on to the new oil supply, the control the oil supply, you've got people like Europe who are needing this energy, they're needing this fuel, so on and so forth. So he's, like it says here, possible scenario. So we don't know, but he's looking at it more on the type of point of view that I'm looking at this war. I'm not really looking at it, blow for blow. You can look at it like that, like a boxing match, blow for blow, and ooh, that one must have hurt. But naturally, I try to look at things on a deeper level. So I'm saying, well, who's pushing the buttons, and why are you pushing the buttons, and what's your end goal? We know what the end goal is. The end goal is Mark of the Beast, a resetting of the system, using a third world war. Donald Trump started this situation. We told you he's going to be that guy to do it. And now he's got this scenario going on in the Middle East. I keep saying it. That is going to go on for a while. They're going to drag that out. I'm going to keep sending people out and eventually other nations are going to have to join in. That's how eventually it will develop into Armageddon. That's not really hard to see, especially with Donald Trump at the wheel. It's not hard to see how we can get into a war free from here. Really, what we want to know, what I'd like to know is how we get into this MOTB. And so when I was watching this brother just now, he's talking about the America, maybe they got a plan to, cut off the oil supply in one place to the world, but hijack it somewhere else. And by hijacking it somewhere else, they can be the main merchants for oil and pretty much start selling it. And there's going to be high demand for it. So that's working on a business level. And then I started thinking, well, they could, what this elder's done. I think he spoke about a conference that's coming up in July between America and something where they're going to discuss these scenarios. He's talking about Donald Trump saying, how you got to be patient. So he's obviously waiting for something. And if that does happen, if it goes down the way this elder kind of broke it down, I'll leave the link. You'd have to watch his video for him to explain it properly himself. But if it goes down the way this elder is explaining it, then they could very well bring that new deal in digital format, in a digital currency. You've got Europe; they're already set up for a digital, the digital euro, so on and so forth. So when they want to start making deals over there, this could be pushing towards a digital format. So all these things, like I say, we don't really know. We can't sit here and map a 6-week plan or a 12, 18, 3-month plan between now and the MOTB. We just give you the main headlines. That's what prophets do. We tell you the end of the time's coming, how it's going to come, and who's going to be the main players. We've done a pretty good job of that so far, because we've got you to this point where it's 2026. I told you in 2023, 2026 they're going to be having this war. And here we are, 2026. When we told you Donald Trump is going to be the last president, and ever since he's got in power, he's done every single thing he can do to fulfill that title, bar get into a nuclear war. But like I say, to go from the war that's going on at the minute into a nuclear war is a big jump. That's going to take time to escalate. I was looking at this the other day. You got to look at, for example, so I typed in here, what did I type in? Timeline of events preceding World War II. And they start at 1895, with what happened in Japan. Japanese agents assassinate Queen Min of Korea, removing major obstacles to Japan's eventual conquest of Korea in the 1900s. So from 1895, they'll say the chain of events led you all the way to World War II, which is pretty much 38. Is it 38 or 39? It's in there somewhere. Yeah, here we go. September the 1st, 1939. So without response to its ultimatum, Germany invades Poland, starting World War II. Slovakia attacks Poland together with the Germans, and the Soviet Union invades Poland on September the 17th in accordance with the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. So all these little things happen for years. And even when you consider, this is the events leading up to World War II, which started in 1939, and they started in 1895. In the meantime, in between time, you actually had World War One, which was like 1914 to 1918. I think it's 1918 or 1919. Oh yeah, here we go. November the 11th, the armistice with Germany marks the end of World War One. German troops are given 72 hours to evacuate occupied territories. Allied troops subsequently move into occupy the German Rhineland. So the build-up for World War One, the build-up for World War Two started in 1895, and it included World War One happening. And then you had all these events, And so this is pretty much where we are, but we're very close to the Third World War. And you do have these scenarios. If you read it, in the future, and you'd be reading backwards about what happened now, they'd say, oh, at this point, 28th of February 2026, U.S. invaded, blah blah blah, or started bombing on Iran, and then obviously that caused that Strait of Hormuz, and from that, then you're going to have this consequence of events which are going to lead us to the Third World War. It's going to lead us to a new digital system. Like I said, we can't give you blow by blow, but we told you how the story ends. We use the scriptures to tell you, and like I say, so this elder here, he gives a possible scenario of what could happen. That America are trying to make this deal, they're trying to get their stronghold on that oil, and they could start pushing it in digital currency and get the ball rolling on that digital system. They may not. But what you have to know, and if you're watching the videos, what you really should know is that ultimately these situations will come about. Like I say, you can follow the mainstream media. You'll get pick up information, but they'll tell you that there's peace coming and there's this and there's that. But ultimately, the scriptures keep you in check, keep you in tune. You know how it ends. This is Micah chapter 2. It says, woe to them that devise iniquity, it says, and work evil upon their beds. It says, when the morning is light, they practice it. It says, because it is in the power of their hands. It says, and they covet fields and take them by violence. It says, and houses and take them away. It says, so they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. And you think of, like, for example, these Edomites, they've gone around the world, they've done a divide and conquer, they've moved people out of their own lands. Even to this day, they'll complain to you about immigration, and they've got these people invaded their countries, but they went around the whole world, divided and conquered, moved people out of their own original lands. They created a Western society, and now people, you lose your people to the Western society. Before, you could lose your family to Edomite invading your town, divide and conquer, which can still happen to this day, as people of Iran will try and tell you that they're putting people over there to death. But they can also destroy you because your people in your family, your young ones, they're born, they see this Western world, they get caught up by it, they go into it, and then they're oppressed within that situation. It removes their heritage, they forget who they are, they become like Hellenized, Westernized, and that's another way to destroy a people, which is what our people have been. It says, therefore thus saith Yahweh, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, it says, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, it says, for the time is evil. It says, in that day, it says, one shall take up a parable against you, and lament with a doleful lamentation, and say, we be utterly spoiled, he hath changed the portion of my people, how hath he removed it from me? Turning away, he hath divided our fields. So therefore, thou shalt have none that shall cast a cord by lot in the congregation of Yahweh. When it comes to judgment, nobody's going to speak up in defense of you oppressors, of these oppressors, those that you speak of here, that are spoken of here by David, Psalm 64, the secret counsel of the wicked. This is Isaiah 24. I was kind of reading this as well. I was looking at this before. It says, behold, it says, Yahweh maketh the earth empty, and maketh it waste, and turneth it upside down, and scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof. It says, and it shall be as with the people, so with the priest, it says, as with the servant, so with the master, it says, as with the maid, so with her mistress, as with the buyer, so with the seller. It says, as with the lender, so with the borrower, as with the taker of usury, so with the giver of usury to him. It says, the land shall be utterly emptied and spoiled, and utterly spoiled. It says, for Yahweh hath spoken this word. The land of America is going to be totally destroyed. Jeremiah speaks of the golden cup. The Most High's used Babylon the Great as a golden cup to make the earth drunk with philosophies, and even on a political level. They go there on a political level to push their philosophies into these other countries. It's alphabet agenda, so on and so forth. And it all comes back. They do it through the manipulation of being that wealthy, powerful nation that can help you. But people are coming to the end of it. It's coming to the end of that. You go to the Book of Revelation speaks about the 10 horns shooting fire upon America. That represents the EU. So somewhere along the line, all these deals on this thing is gonna, it's gonna escalate and become out of control for Babylon the Great, for them to actually control it. Don't forget these elites. They're bringing about the Third World War. They're gonna make it happen. You think, you people are making like YouTube videos, right? And they go, oh, you can't invade Tehran because it's a very mountainous area. And I sit there thinking to myself, and then they like trying to laugh at the US, and I sit there thinking to myself, do you think that you sitting at home making your YouTube video, somehow that you can't invade, Iran because it's a mountainous range, it's a mountainous area, but you think the US government don't know that? Of course they do. They have intelligence, they have CIA operatives, they pay people to go out there and scope out these places before they actually take on these missions. So they're not stupid. They just are playing a game, and the game is to ultimately bring the world economy to its knees, and then ultimately switch it to a digital system. They may do that through the oil. Like I say, you go back to this elders video, this is a possible scenario of how things could temporarily unfold. And basically what it boils down to, you the listener, you the believer, what do you need to know? You watch the news, you see all this happening. The bottom line is you need to believe on the scriptures. The Third World War is coming. America will be destroyed. A great deliverance will come. There is a time called Armageddon. You've got Mark of the Beast. And the reason why we push this Mark of the Beast, you've got many steps to. So you've got at one point, for example, they may take away the fiat currency. They may take away cash and coins. That's before the Mark of the Beast may be introduced. And even that alone will cause a problem for people. People not being able to earn cash, not being able to earn extra money. So already society is going to suffer and struggle if they take away a fiat currency, the coins, the cash notes. They could still keep, at that point, they could still keep a credit card going. They could have a digital system. Everything could be electronic. Any payment sale you make might have to be through your phone. What happens when you're an illegal arms dealer? What do? You're going to start buying, weapons on a cash app. Is that what's going to happen? See, this is when people start having problems. And then you got the step where they make it mandatory to put a device under the skin. And that's the only way you can buy and sell. Then you've got that problem to deal with. So there's a lot of suffering to take place. In the meantime, you've got Armageddon building up. People are going to get sent out. Oh, there's another one, actually. Almost forgot. I was looking at this. So conscription. So they just raised, or I believe they're talking about raising the age of conscription, of draft in America. I think they said they were going to, from 18 to 25, they've raised it to 18 to 42. And this is why we're warning you up. The battle of Armageddon is coming. These governments around the world are going to send people out into the Middle East to pretty much die in the battle of Armageddon. So there's a lot of people living comfortably right now. They watch all this stuff on the TV. They can still go to work. They still get about, live their life. But like I say, people are starting to feel the effects slowly. Eventually, the walls are going to close in. You might even be called out into this particular war. So this is conscription, WW3, World War III, age range for men in UK as Germany brings in huge new rule. This is dated, well, it says 2 hours ago, but I did actually pull that up yesterday, so it's probably like, I don't know, it's about a day old. Anyway, German males aged 17 to 45. So this is what Germany is saying: 17 to 45 must now obtain prior approval from any state abroad longer than 3 months. A sweeping new peacetime rule that has sparked alarm across Europe. That is where it starts here. The requirement, quietly embedded in the Military Service Modernization Act, which took effect on January the 1st, 2026, is not conscription. It does not force anyone into uniform. Instead, it creates a permanent, reliable registration system so Berlin knows exactly who is available if an emergency arises. So as of January the 1st this year, this thing's come into effect in Germany, where males aged 17 to 45 must now obtain. So they have to like basically let the government know that they are ready to be available if an emergency arises. It says Defense Ministry officials say the measure, which applies even in normal times, is designed to ensure a reliable and meaningful military registration system, so for potential mobilization. Officials know approvals must generally be granted, but the change has far-reaching consequences for young men studying, working, or traveling overseas. Regulations on exemptions are still being drawn up to the military to limit bureaucracy. The law forms part of a broader push to expand the Bundeswehr from roughly 180,000 to 260,000 active personnel by 2035. So Germany are actively trying to build up, their army pretty much. It also introduced voluntary military service to all 18-year-olds. Now receive a questionnaire asking if they want to join, followed by fitness assessments. This is from July 2027. This is women can volunteer but cannot be compelled under a constitution. If volunteer numbers fall short of the security situation deteriorates, compulsory service remains a possibility. Germany is not alone in tightening its defences. France President Emmanuel Macron unveiled a new voluntary national military service plan on the 27th of November 25, a paid 10-month program for 18 and 19-year-olds that will begin mid-2026. So even France have now created this recruitment program. Recruits serve only on French soil or overseas territories, never in foreign combat operations. That's why I think that's why they're doing the training program. So the scheme starts with 3,000 places and aims to reach 10,000 by 2030, as Paris pours 6.5 billion in extra military spending into countering Russian threats. Across Europe, however, several NATO members have already operate full or selective conscription. Nordic and Baltic states, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, and Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania all run mandatory or lottery-based service, with several extending durations or including women. Austria requires 6 monthly military or civilian service for men aged 18 to 35 or up to 50 in reserves. Greece maintains 9 to 12 months for men aged 19 to 45. Croatia is set to reintroduce conscription in 2026 for men aged 19 to 29. So I think what they're doing in some of these countries, they make you join, and then they'll make you do a year of training at the age when you join, or 18, 19, and then if you're growing up, you'd probably have to join at 19, do a year, and then go off and do your jobs. You can go off and work, and then if they need to call you back, the idea is they can call you. Britain, by contrast, has had no conscription since 1960, but its World War II experience offers the clearest precedent for what a wartime draft would look like. In May 1939, 6 months before the war was declared, The Military Training Act introduced limited conscription for single men aged 20 to 22 who underwent 6 months training. On September the 3rd, 1939, so I think that's 2 days after World War II was declared, Parliament passed the National Service Armed Forces Act, instantly widening it to all men aged 18 to 41. So as soon as a World War II was declared, the British government basically made it from 20 to 22, raised it from 18 to 41 straight away, just jacked it up, sending people out there, sending men out to war. But by 1941, the upper age rose to 51 for men, while unmarried women and childless widows aged 20 to 30 were also called up. This is only the medically unfit or those in vital civilian roles, farming, medicine, engineering, banking, were exempt. A YouGov poll in January 26 found 38% of Britons under 40 would refuse to serve in the New World War, and 30% would not fight even if the UK faced imminent invasion. So this 30% of the country wouldn't even fight if they were about to be invaded. They're lame people, man. There's a lame group of people because they'd rather sit home and watch TV, and someone else will invade their country, take over, and they'll just say, yeah, as long as I get to watch my TV. So as though 72% supported conscripting women alongside men. Yeah, because women want equality, so get them in the army if that's what you want. But 30% of Britons would not go out and to fight even if the UK faced imminent invasion. 38% of Britons under the age of 40 said they will not serve in a war, even if it came. So that could be a lot of people going to jail if they have a conscription in the UK. Chancellor Friedrich Merz vows to rebuild the Bundeswehr into Europe's strongest conventional force. Germany's new travel rule is the latest sign that Europe is shifting from post-war drawdown to pre-war readiness. For now, it stops short of conscription, but the legal machinery is in place. In Britain, the World War II age bands of 18 to 41, rapidly expanding to 51, remain the historical blueprint for what a World War III draft would almost certainly look like. So if you're in Europe and Armageddon's raging on in the Middle East, you could easily get called. They could easily raise the age band of some conscription to 18 to 41, and they could even expand that to 51. So this is why you need the Most High. This is why you need Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, because I'm not in Babylon the Great. I'm not in America. So we know Babylon the Great, America is going to be destroyed. You don't want to be over there. But even if you're around the world is going to move to and fro in the great time of great destruction on the day of the Lord, when the ICBMs hit America. The earth will rock to and fro. So you'll have tsunamis, you'll have earthquakes. So wherever you live, there's going to be judgment going out. People aren't going to be able to escape. Utilities, pipelines, water pipes, they're all going to break when you have an earthquake all around the world. So people are going to be stuffed. So really, this is why you need the Most High. And then even leading up until that point, how are you going to get out of, conscription? Armageddon, how are you going to get out of that? You need to be calling on Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai to deliver you from this scenario. Now, me myself, I'm 46 at the minute, so I've just turned 46 years old. So if they raised it from 18 to, what did they say here? 18. So in Britain, the World War II age bands of 18 to 41. So if they call out for 18 to 41, I'm cool. But it says here, rapidly expanding to 51, remain the historical blueprint for what a World War III draft would almost certainly look like. And look what they've just done in America. They're talking about raising it, from 18 to 42. So if you're early 40s, it's touch and go. If you're in your late 40s, boy, you want to hope they don't raise it somewhere down the line. Ultimately, my plan of action is to call on Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai and believe that He will stop that from happening. You don't want to get called out to the Middle East, not in these last days, because as Apostle Tahar keeps saying, you're not going to come back. There was one other bit. Where was it? Oh yeah, they spoke about certain people, certain industries that you work in. Okay, yeah. So only the medically unfit or those in vital civilian roles, farming, medicine, engineering, banking, were exempt. So you might get away with it if you're in a certain sector. I work in the airport. It comes under an engineering. They put it under engineering bracket, but technically it's just building maintenance. I call it just maintenance building, but I'll happily take that role. That's what it says on my ID badge. It says engineering, technical engineering. So I might get away with it on that level. But this is what's coming. There's definitely a World War III. There's definitely a Battle of Armageddon. A lot of people are going to be dead all around the earth. And in the midst of all that, they're going to try and stick you with this mark of the beast. They're going to tell you if you don't have that, you can't buy and sell. And then you're going to not be able to eat. So there's great, terrible times. And then, with all that stuff, then, creates violence, uproars of the people, protesting. We're in for a wild ride. But may Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai bring the destruction to this kingdom. And may He bring the plagues, may He bring these curses to bring judgment to these people, and so that He can ultimately deliver His elect. And with that, I'm going to leave it right there. All praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakak, Wadash. And until next time, Shalom.